In this video, we are going to discuss about the principles of the security because anyhow we have to protect our message from the uh, illegal users. Anyhow, whenever we are trying to give a message or information to anybody else, and if it is meant for somebody, so it should not be available to anybody else besides that the message which is meant for a particular legitimate user. So we know that whenever we try to write a text and we are sending that text to the receiving end, that data travels in a very clear text form, or you can say in a plain text form. Now, the importance of the data is concerned. It may be the personal data, it may be the confidential data, and we don't want that this kind of data should be anyhow disclosed to anybody else besides the uh, legal user, legal receiver. So, what we have to do, we have to protect this personal or the confidential information, and because traveling of the information in the plain text form or the clear text form is not very secure. For example, if you take an example of a card detail for doing any kind of financial transactions, we have to give certain information which is related to the number or the password or the code. And if it travels on the network, if it travels in a clear text form, then anybody else who is sitting in between on in the network can have that information and can misuse that information. So this is the example by which you can see the credit card information which has been sent by the client to the server, and this is with the information that what is the customer ID, what is the order number, what is the item number, what is the credit card detail as far as the credit card number, who has issued. So all these information, if it is traveling, it is not secure, or any kind of attack can happen in that process. So in the real life, we have to very much vigilant about that, and based on that, we adopt certain security. We adopt certain method by which we can secure our messages, which is traveling on the network. So we have basically certain principles of the security based on which we try to protect, we try to secure our messages. uh, the different principles of the security is concerned, we have 6 principles of security, out of which 4 principles of security are the chief principles of the security, and there are 2 more principles of the security. The 4 major principles of security are confidentiality, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation, and beside these 4, we have 2 more principles of security, and that one is the access control and the availability. So we will be discussing in this video about the principles of the security in detail, uh, as well as uh, what are the different attacks which used to happen on the information which is traveling from one place to another place, and how this principle of security is going to protect it, securing it for the safety purpose. So the first principle of security is the confidentiality. You know that confidentiality actually means that whatever information is flowing from the sender and it is meant for a particular receiver, there should not be anybody else who are able to read that message or understand that message. So this confidentiality is also called privacy, and it also refers to the secrecy of the information, and it should not be disclosed to anybody else. If we are able to do this process, it means we are proving the confidentiality principle of the security. And this also confidentiality also says that only the sender and the receiver should have the access to the information. But if it is it happens like this, that if sender is sending any message to the receiver and anybody else who is sitting in between and going to see what kind of message is, going to understand that what kind of message is, it means the confidentiality principle is going to be breached. So the confidentiality actually means the messages which are meant for a particular receiver, it should, without any interception, it should reach to the legal receiver. Now, the loss of the confidentiality is used to happen whenever a sender is sending any secret message to a receiver. Suppose A is the sender and B is the receiver, and anybody who is sitting in between as an attacker, if it is able to read the message, which is the secret message which has been sent from A to B, if it happens so, it means we are getting a loss of the confidentiality. Of course, this confidentiality principle is applicable in not in all circumstances, but it is applicable in a certain circumstances that anyhow we want to protect the message in such a manner that nobody should able to read it, and nobody should be able to understand it. So as far as the confidentiality, and if anybody else who is sitting in between is going to intercept the message and able to understand that what kind of message is traveling from the sender to the receiver, it means it is going to cause the loss of the confidentiality. So interception is actually is the cause of the loss of confidentiality. So the term interception is used as far as the loss of confidentiality is concerned. The second principle of security is the authentication. Authentication means who is who. Before we do any kind of transaction of any kind of message in between the sender and the receiver, sender must know that who will be the receiver, and receiver must know that who is the sender. Meaning thereby, before the transaction of message took place, this principle of security says one has to authenticate each other. The sender should authenticate the receiver, as well as receiver should authenticate the sender. So it identifies the sender and the receiver of a message, and it requires that the communicating party should trust each other. If A is communicating to B, then A must ensure that the message is reaching to B, as well as whenever B is receiving any message, B must ensure that this message has, whatever he has received, it has come from A. So authentication actually means who is who. Before any transaction of message, there must be some certain instances, certain happening must be there by which one should recognize to whom they are communicating. And that is why it is also known as who is who. But there is a problem that it may be possible that the person who is sitting in between may be fabricating something by which that attacker will be posing himself or herself as another user. So whenever this kind of thing happens, then it means there is an absence of authentication. There is a sender A, there is a receiver B, and there is an attacker C. If attacker C is imposing itself that I am a user A and trying to connect with B, giving the message that I am a user A, it means there is a loss of authentication. There is absence of authentication whenever C is trying to contact with B and B has not able to ensure whether it is communicating with C or it is communicating to A, because C has imposed himself, C has fabricated himself and posed himself to as a user A. And if B starts doing transaction, sending the message, receiving the message with C, it means there is a loss of authentication. So this process in which there is absence of authentication, it is called fabrication. So fabrication is possible uh, in absence of proper authentication mechanism. Now, the third principle of security is integrity. The integrity principle ensures that there should not be any change in the message that is to be detected. The message which has been sent from the sender and which has been received by the receiver must travel without any alteration. Changes need to be prevented, or at least it should be detected. For example, if the sender is communicating with bank B, and that sender A has given a message to the bank B that please transfer rupees 100 into the account of D. So, and if there is a person who is sitting in between, has changed that message, that instead of 100 it has changed the message from 100 to 1000, it means there is a loss of integrity. So integrity means that whatever message is being sent by the sender, as it is, it should be received by the receiver, and there should not be any change in the message. But if it happens, it means there is a loss of integrity. So loss of integrity actually means the modification. If the modification has been done in between, sitting in between the sender and the receiver as an attacker, so the ideal route of the message is from A to B, but C has done something by which the message is coming from C, from A to C. C is changing that message and then it is transferring to the B. So the integrity means that there should not be any change into the message, and if it happens so, it means it is the loss of integrity. So that process is called modification if there is a loss of message integrity. So the confidentiality means the message should not be intercepted by anybody else. Authentication means before communication start, one must know who is who. And integrity means whatever kind of message sender has sent, it should be received as it is by the receiver. The fourth principle of security is non-repudiation. There are certain situations where a sender used to send a message and later on he or she refuses that he has not sent this message. For instance, if there is a user A who send a fund transfer message to B over the internet, and after the bank performs the transfer of the funds, later on A denies that I have not sent any message to B. How you have transferred that message? So there must be a certain principle by which whatever sender has sent a message to a particular receiver, he or she cannot claim that he or she has not sent this message. This principle of this principle of security is called non-repudiation. So non-repudiation does not allow sender of a message to refute or the claim that he or she has not sent this message. Now, these are the four basic principles of the security: confidentiality, authentication, integrity, and the non-repudiation. Now, besides this, there are certain more principles of the security, and the fifth principle of security is the access control. Now, what access control means? Now, this the principle of access control determines who should be able to access what, meaning thereby everybody should not be allowed to access all the things which are available on the server. Suppose you are a legitimate user of a particular server, so you will have certain restriction in the accessing the server's resources, whatever is available with the server. Meaning thereby it may be possible that you are able to read the information and you are not allowed to change the information which is already lying with the server. So basically, the access control works in the fashion of two areas. First is the role management, as well as second one is the rule management. Now, role management is it refers to the user point of view, and the rule management focuses on the resource side. So access control specifies and controls who can access what. You are allowed to use those particular resources of a certain reasons for a certain cause, and you are not allowed to do all the activities which is available with the server. So the next principle of security is availability. Now, as far as principles of availability is concerned, it states that resources should be available to all the authentic user all the times. Meaning thereby, uh, there is a possibility that attacker is going to deny the availability, because if I am a legitimate user of a particular server, I should be, and whatever I can access, I should be allowed to access all those things. It should be available to me at all times. But there is a possibility by which there is a certain attacker who is working in between and trying to make busy the server, so that server will not be able to spare its time for the legitimate users. So if there is a condition that in which the attacker is going to make a server busy in such a fashion that any legitimate user of that server will be getting information of the denial of the services. Because if attacker is making every time the server busy, then in that case denial of the service will be coming to the, for example, now take the example. Suppose I'm a legitimate user of a Gmail. So whenever an ID and the password has been given to me, and whenever we on the screen on the window, if I am writing my ID as well as password, that server should be available to me for using it as a mail server. So I can edit the information, and should be able to send any information to anybody in their mail. I should be able to receive any kind of mail, and for this particular purpose, server will be doing something on the behalf of ourselves. But in certain cases, whatever happens by using the automating the attacker what tries to do, attacker used to make busy the and uses the resources of the server, so that server is not able to serve ourselves. So that is called the denial of the service. So means A is trying to reach B, but the attacker C is making busy with B, so that whatever resources A is in requirement from B is not is available to the A. So this is called interruption. This attack on the availability is called interruption. So interruption causes the lack of availability. So these are the four basic principles: confidentiality, integrity, authentication, and the non-repudiation. And the two more principles of the security is the access control as well as the availability. Now let us discuss about the types of attack. Now, there are basic two types of attacks. However, we have a large classification of the attack with which we can encounter by an attacker. But in basic terms, it is classified into two kinds of attack. One is called passive attack, and another is called active attack. Now, let us first give you the idea that what do you mean by passive attack and what do you mean by active attack. Now, as far as the active attack is concerned, if the attacker is actively involved in attacking the services, that is called active attack, meaning thereby fabrication, meaning thereby alteration, meaning thereby uh, interruption. These comes in the category of active attack. Passive attack is the kind of attack in which attacker does not directly harms the information or the user. It passive means it is in the sleeping mode. It learns. It tries to find out that what is actually happening on the network and passes those information to somebody else who may create certain kind of activity. So the passive attack is very dangerous in case of with reference to the active attack, because we are not able to detect that what kind of activity is being done by the attacker as far as the passive attack is concerned, because it is very difficult to detect, because passively it is listening the information, trying to understand the information, and it directly passing the information to somebody else. But in active attack are those attacks in which the attacker is directly involved in making certain harmful features by which it is going to attack on the user. So this is the meaning of passive attack and the active attack. Now, this passive attack is again, passive attack is interception. Now, this again is classified into two parts. One is the release of the message content, and second one is the traffic analysis. The meaning of the release of the message content, that the attacker is intercepting, but the sender and the receiver is not knowing that somebody is intercepting the message, reading the message, and it is actually the role of the attacker is to release whatever message he has received to somebody else. So the first category classification of passive attack is the release of the message content. He is not bothered to do anything else besides reading and sending it to somebody else. Second one is the traffic analysis. He tries to do that, what kind of information is flowing from the sender to the receiver, what kind of, it does the analysis of the traffic which is traveling on the network. So passive attack is of two types: release of the message content, and second one is the analyzing the traffic. Now, as far as the active attack is concerned, it is categorized into three parts. One is interruption, second one is modification, and third one is the fabrication. Now, as far as the interruption is concerned, interruption means it is a kind of attack in which the services which should be available to the legal users is not available, and the attacker is trying to busy the server in such a fashion that this services is not available to the legitimate user. The second kind of active attack is the modification, which is going to give you the loss of integrity. Whatever message has been sent by the sender, it should be received by the receiver as it is, but they are going to make certain alteration or some change in the content of the message. That is called modification. And the third category of active attack is the fabrication. It is also called masquerade. Fabrication means loss of authentication. What is loss of authentication? The loss of authentication means the attacker will be posing himself or herself as another user. So that is called fabrication. So we must be very much clear about the terms which are used to breach the principles of the security. If we talk about interception, it is the loss of confidentiality. If it is interruption, it is the loss of availability. If there is a modification, it is the loss of integrity. If there is a fabrication, it is a loss of authentication. Now again, the modification is divided into two parts. One is replay attack and second one is the alteration. So the meaning of alteration is very clear, that if you have sent a message, please transfer rupees 100 from to bank, that please transfer rupees 100 into the account of D, and the attacker has altered that amount from 100 to 1000 or 10,000, or he has altered the message, instead of sending it to account B account, it has written that it should send it to C account, like that. So any alteration which has been done, which comes under the category of the modification. Another category of modification attack is the replay attack. Now the replay attack is also comes under the category of modification, in which the attacker used to uh, trap the information which has been sent by the sender, and it repetitively, after few times, it sends the same message, posing himself as an A to the receiving end, so that receiving end will be able to confuse that why the same message is coming from the legitimate user many times. And the purpose of replay attack is just to uh, harass the receiver that the same message is coming many times. So it is also a kind of attack which lies under the category of the active attack. Now, besides that, we have certain practical sides of attack, which security attacks in practice. The first one is the application level attack, and second one is the network level attack. Application level attack is a kind of attack in which uh, these attack actually happens on the application level, in the sense that the attacker attempts to access, modify, and prevent the access of the information of a particular application or to the application itself. So it means this kind of attack is somehow related with the application level only. And network level attack, this is generally aimed to in reducing the capability of the network by number of possible means. There may be many methods by which it can be done. This network level attack generally makes an attempt to either slow down or completely bring into the uh, bring the network into the halt, because someone is able to gain the access of the network, and normally the attack is done on the network level, so that uh, it is going to harm the users who are attached with the network. So security attack can happen both in both fashion, such as application level as well as to the network level. Now, in general, in broad way, the total number of the attacks which can happen with the user can be categorized into this fashion. That attack can be categorized into two parts. One is general view, and another is the technical view. What is the general view? General view of the attack is again categorized into three categories. One is criminal attack, second one is publicity attack, and third one is the legal attack. Uh, Technical view has been divided into theoretical attack as well as the practical attack. So let us first discuss about the general view. And in general view, we have three kinds of attack: criminal attack, publicity attack, and the legal attack. Now, as far as the criminal attacks are concerned, it is very simple to understand. We know that there are criminals which works as an attacker, and the sole purpose is to maximize the financial gain. Publicity attack is not at all concerned with the financial. It is somehow related with the person who try to publish his or her name into the news, into the TV news, into the newspaper, so that, and the sole purpose of the publicity attack is to give the information in public about an organization that you have less security. Your information, your network, your website is less secure. And just to give you the idea that you have certain lacuna in your security which you have implemented in your website, and just to get the publicity. So this kind of thing which used to happen is to be done mostly by the students who are in the learning stage, or to the people who are working in a bigger organization, like that. Legal attack, this form of the is this kind of attack is quite unique, where the attacker always tries to make the judge or the jury that the security of the computer system is not up to the mark, and whatever I have done nothing. I have done nothing wrong, as the system has asked me to write the login ID and the password, and I have written login ID and password, and the rest of the things is to be taken care by the server. If I know the ID and the password of somebody else, and I have put and I have transacted some money from the bank, it is the duty of the bank to know that which user is working. Means you must first authenticate oneself. Meaning thereby, in the kind of legal attack, the attacker tries to make fool about the technological concern, uh, because the jury member or the judge is having lesser knowledge of the technology itself. So this is the general view of the attack. Theoretical view, we have active attack and the passive attack. We have already discussed. In that active attack, we have interruption, we have fabrication, we have modification. We have already discussed. Modification is again divided in two parts: replay attack and the alteration. We have already discussed. Now, practical sides of the attack is the release of the message and the traffic analysis. It is already discussed. And now, practical sides of the attack, again it is divided in two parts, that is application level attack and the network level. So in general, the total number of total attacks which can happen, which lies under the category of general view and the technical view, are already discussed. Now the program which can attack, the first program which used to attack is the virus, which is very common word, and this term has been taken from the botanical name, because the virus is a kind of thing which is going to give you harm, whether it is a virus in the body, and the same kind of activity is going to happen in the form of a virus in the computer system. So virus is nothing but it is a program which causes a damage, which is to the program, to the applications, to the data, to the information, whatever is residing inside the computer system. Of course, this is, as I told you, that it is a program with not with the positive intention, with the negative intention, that anyhow we have to do something by which the system is not working properly, and whatever code has been written, it should not function effectively. So it contains certain malicious code which attaches itself with the application level programs residing within the computer and making it harm, deleting the file, dropping the letters, removing the memory, choking the networks, like that. And the property of the virus is normally it propagates as it damages. जितना ये damage करता जाता है उतनी अपने आप को ये propagate करता रहता है. Now, this example of the virus is very simple. We have original code, virus infected code, and then whenever it is being executed, it is going to delete all the files, send a copy to myself, and like that. So there are certain kinds of negative activity which is being done by the virus, so that the system will not function properly, the program will not function properly. Now, the second kind of the program which attacks on the computer system is the worm. It is also a kind of a virus, but it is different from the virus, because it does not directly gives any damage to the program or the application. The purpose of the worm is to consume all the resources and bring the system into a halt. And it also propagates as it damages, and it does not damage the program. It is consuming all the resources of the system, so that whatever resources should be required for a legitimate program, it should not be available. So worm is different from the virus. Virus is a kind of program which is going to harm the file, the codes, but worm is a kind of a program which chokes the network, which consumes the resources and brings the system into a halt. Now this is the now it also propagates as it consumes a lot of resources, and eating the resources is going to halt the system. The third program is the Trojan horse. Now, as far as the Trojan horse is concerned, it is also a kind of a virus, but it functions in a different manner than the virus as well as the worm. Now, why this particular term has been given Trojan horse? Uh, there is a story behind that. I will be giving you the idea of that story. But the purpose of the Trojan horse is to silently observe the user action and capture the confidential information, whatever is residing on the user's computer. Suppose a Trojan horse is again a kind of a program which resides anyhow in your system memory. And what happens, it silently observes that what kind of action you are going to do on your system. Suppose you are writing your ID and the password. So what it does, it observes and captures that information. Suppose you are writing your credit card details, that is credit card number, the password, this and that. So what it does, it silently observes, captures the confidential information, and this captured information is sent by the Trojan horse program to somebody else. So this is very dangerous. Virus is also dangerous, worm is also dangerous, but Trojan horse is more dangerous than virus and the worm, because it comes under the category of the passive attack. It just learns, it just analyzes, it just passively listens that what is happening and then sends that information to somebody else who is going to create an harm. So there is a story, and the story long back ago, there was a fight in between two cities, Greek city and the Troy city, and the Greek soldiers, whenever they saw that they are going to lose the fight, what happened? They most of the soldiers were injured. Most of them run away from that place, and but few of the soldiers, after fighting, and then when they feel that they are going to be defeated, they came back and into their camp, and there was a horse, the wooden horse, which has been framed by some person in the Greek city, and that horse was a hollow, and it's a very huge size. So just for the protection point of view, all the Greek soldiers who have been left uh, and came back after the fighting, thinking that they are being defeated, just to protect themselves, they went inside the hollow horse and sit quietly. When the Troy city soldiers find that there is no Greek soldier, uh, and they have lost the fight, they entered into the Greek city, and then they find that there is a huge wooden horse lying in the Greek city. So the Troy city soldiers thought that they have already won. So why not to take all the materials of the Greek city to their uh, to their nation? So what they did, all the soldiers pulled that horse to the Troy city. Troy city. They bring that, but they are not knowing actually that there are certain Greek soldiers who are sitting within that hollow horse. So they pulled that horse to their Troy city. They closed their door of that city, and inside that city they pulled the horse and they slept. So the Greek soldier, when they found that they are inside the Troy city and they got the chance, they came out of the horse, opened the gate of the Troy city, so that the rest of the Greek soldiers, which are run away from that place, thinking just they have lost the fight, they came inside, attacked on the Troy city, and they won the battle. And that is why the same thing is happening in case of a Trojan horse. So what it silently resides in your system, in your memory, in the form of a program, silently observes that what kind of action, and captures that action as well as the confidential information wherever you are doing something on your computer system, captures that information and sends that information to somebody else, which may cause harm to yourself. This is an example of a Trojan horse, that as a user you are writing your ID and the password in the form of something, and you are going to log in, and this all this information which is a Trojan horse is observing, it tries to capture that information, it comes and send that information to the attacker by using the network. So this Trojan horse is more dangerous than the virus in the worm, because I have already told you that in case of active, any kind of active attack, you will be able to detect it easily. But in case of passive attack, it is very difficult to detect it. Prevention is the best policy as far as the passive attack is concerned, because if there is any kind of active attack, you might be knowing and you will be trying to find out the remedy of any kind of active attack. But since passive attacks used to do all the work silently, and you are not able to learn that what kind of activity is happening inside your computer system, so it is very difficult to detect, and prevention is the only way by which you can avoid this. Thank you.